What's up, guys? Your boy Spenny's here, and today I would like to welcome you to Episode 2 of Hardcore Hell, a series where my team and I bring you off-meta builds that are capable of crushing Hell content at almost any player count. And today, I would like to showcase the Shifting Storms Druid. The Shifting Storms Druid is a hybrid druid that utilizes both elemental skills and shape-shifting skills. It relies on the cohesion between lycanthropy and werebear for a massive health pool, as well as uses maul for its upfront stun attack and uses hunger to leech health and mana back. On the elemental side of things, we use Hurricane, which brings a much needed massive amount of AoE damage to the werebear druid so it can get a handle on those big density packs. This build's duo damage types, its upfront physical damage from Maul, as well as its AoE cold damage from Hurricane, makes for traversing the depths of Hell an absolute breeze. Not to mention that it also opens up a larger pool of areas for the werebear druid to actually go and farm for his gear. And speaking of gear, by putting a little emphasis on plus to cold skill damage as well as a minus to enemy cold resist, it pumps up our Hurricane's damage and increases our clear speeds tenfold. Now, we've tested this build at every different player count as well as with a multitude of different gear setups, and all of it worked relatively well. But let's go take a look at the gear setup that I ultimately ended up with. For our main weapon, we went with the Runeward Doom. It's a little on the expensive side, but it hands down brings the most synergy to the build. With a healthy amount of enhanced damage and attack speed, we're able to get that maul swipe moving with a quickness, dishing out those stun attacks. A +2 to all skills, our Hurricane's damage gets beefed up quite a bit, and the Holy Freeze Aura slows our enemies' attacks down on contact, increasing our survivability. And most importantly, Doom brings a massive reduction to enemy cold resistance, allowing our Hurricane to make short work of dense areas. The one caveat that we have with the Doom weapon is that you couldn't make it in a phase blade, so the incredibly fast attacks from our Maul caused this weapon to take durability damage at an alarming rate. But we mitigated most of this issue with a nice superior base with a good bonus to durability, as well as a healthy stock of Ort runes. It's a pretty easy rune to farm, and you can use the Herodric Cube to repair the weapon while you're on the go when transmuted with an Ort rune. Paired with our Doom weapon, we went with the tried and true Storm Shield. The undisputed heavyweight champ of hardcore builds, the Storm Shield provides an incredible amount of block chance, as well as a vile amount of physical damage reduction, clocking in at 35%. It also provides a healthy amount of cold resist to help mitigate the negative effects of our Cold Rupture Sunder Charm. On our swap, we went with Call to Arms and a Spirit Monarch. Call to Arms provides us with access to the Barbarian's battle orders, which increases our health by quite a bit, and the Spirit adds a couple extra skill points to boost that battle orders buff, making it even more potent. For our body armor, we found two viable options. Our main option was a Hustle Archon plate. Hustle provided a wicked amount of increased attack speed and an even more significant amount of run-walk speed. This allowed us to traverse through our farms much faster and more smoothly. However, when we found ourselves farming areas that were a little bit more dangerous, or even at a higher player count, we had to go with the Chains of Honor Archon plate. The extra skill points, massive resistances, physical damage reduction, lifesteal, and increased damage to demons was too much to pass up when confronting the Ubers or other dangerous bosses at higher player counts. For our helmet, we went with Nightwing's Veil. This helmet makes a massive impact in the build, as it comes with +2 to all skills to further increase the damage of our Hurricane, +9 Cold Absorb to help mitigate the increased cold damage due to our Sunder Charm, a whopping 15% increase to our cold skill damage, Hurricane, and a source of cannot be frozen when socketed with a Cham rune. For our belt, we went with the good old String of Ears. It provides us with magic damage reduced by 15, physical damage received reduced by 15%, and an additional 8% life stolen per hit, an all-around heavy hitter for any hardcore build that deals with melee. For our gloves, we went with Laying of Hands. They provided the best all-around synergy for the build. However, several other pairs of gloves have excellent merits, such as Trangle's Claws and Mage Fist. Needless to say, Laying of Hands provides us with an additional 50% fire resistance, 20% increased attack speed, and a 350% damage increase to demons. While this damage increase doesn't apply to Hurricane, Trangle's increased cast speed and cold resist outperforms Laying of Hands in general density clearing. But against bosses, a pair of Laying of Hands definitely comes in, well, handy. I know, awful, right? For our boots, we are rocking the Gore Riders, the 30% faster run walk, 10% chance at open wounds, 15% crushing blow, and 15% deadly strike were just too much to pass up for the melee portion of the build. But, like our gloves, we tested several other options, such as Natalia's Souls, Sandstorm Treks, Water Walks, and even War Traps, and all of them worked well. Gore Riders just seemed to edge out the others by a small margin. For our amulet, we found two really solid options. The Cat's Eye provided extra dexterity for defense, 20% increased attack speed, and 30% faster run walk, and made general density farming feel incredibly fast and smooth. But, in all honesty, the biggest bang for your buck is probably Amara's Kaleidoscope. With a +2 to all skills and a massive increase to resistances, this increase in damage and survivability is nothing to shake a stick at. For our rings, as with most solid hardcore builds, there are several great options depending on the situation that you find yourself in. Ravenfrost can be good for Act 5 farming with the additional Cold Absorb. Dwarf Star can prove an excellent option in Chaos, helping to mitigate fire damage from the Pit Lords with its Fire Absorb, and the good old SOJ is always a great option. However, we found that we felt the most comfortable with a Bukathos Wedding Band and a Wisp Projector. Lightning damage is always scary because of its insanely high top-end damage, so the Wisp Projector's Lightning Absorb made it feel safe when pushing into stronger enemies such as the Souls, and Bukathos provided the extra +1 to skills as well as some additional health and lifesteal. Be this as it may, we were constantly switching our rings out and placing respect on situational awareness, and my advice for anyone pushing hardcore content is to work on making this a common practice for yourself as well. So there you have it. That's the baseline gear setup that I have when I'm pushing Hell content with a player's 8 count. You can of course adjust this depending on whether you're online on Battle.net or you're offline, and depending on your player count as well. But that's not the end of it. Let's take a look real quick at the stats and skill setup and how I have it all smoothed out to make this build work. So when looking at our stats, you can see that this is indeed a Titan build. You want to put just enough strength in to wear all of your gear. In our case, this is 120. And you want to dump all of the rest of your stat points into dexterity. There's no need to put any stat points into energy or vitality because your werebear and your BO buff is going to provide you with the life you need to survive, and the massive amount of dexterity will provide you with extra defense, especially when in werebear form, to prevent you from being hit, and your max shield block will also help immensely when it comes to avoiding damage. For our elemental skill tree, we mentioned that with this build we buff our Hurricane's damage up to deal with AoE density farming. We put 1 point into Arctic Blast and Cyclone Armor, and then max out Hurricane and its damage synergies in Twister and Tornado. In this display we do have 4 points in Cyclone Armor, however, unless you are level 96 plus, you want to keep this at just 1 hard point, and reserve only your very last 3 points to bump this skill up. For our shapeshifting tree, we workshopped several different ways to spend these skill points. At the end of the day, my team members and I did share varying opinions on what to do with these points. We tried out putting 20 points in Werebear for the extra defense, and not taking Maul or any other skills at all, but this build seemed to lack the speed on boss kills that I like to have, or any ability to do the Ubers. We even tried a build where we put 20 points into Raven for the extra pet damage and the chance to blind enemies that were out of the range of Hurricane, but the lack of control over the Ravens' target led us to test and workshop the build until we landed here. We put 1 point in all the necessary skills to acquire 20 points in Lycanthropy for the massive health pool and the duration on Werebear, and I put 20 points into Maul to further the duo damage types that this build brings to the table. I also put 1 point into Hunger. I am not a fan of Act 2 mercenaries because for me, they seem to spend more time just pushing up daisies than they do on the battlefield. So I prefer to run an Act 5 mercenary with at least a Plague Phase Blade for the cleansing of curses. Because of this, mana proved to be an issue at times, and Hunger provided the on-demand instant mana refill that we needed to keep on pushing. Alright, so there you go. Now you have everything you need to make an epic Shifting Storms Druid, from the baseline gear setup to your stat points for your Titan build, all the way up to the skill points and the various different skill setups that you can actually have. The last thing I want to talk about is the Ubers. The Ubers was the hardest part of this entire build to workshop. While Mephisto and Diablo went down easy as cake, Bale proved to be a whole nother animal. Uber Bale is rocking a massive 185% cold resist, and as our build primarily revolves around pumping up Hurricane and its cold damage, this proved to be very problematic. And also, we're not running an Act 2 Mercenary with Conviction Ore, making the matter even worse. On top of that, Bale is rocking an incredibly high defense, making him very difficult to hit. With the current build setup, we were sitting at around 70% chance to hit Bale, and this was very, very difficult to deal with. We couldn't stop him from healing himself so much because our Hurricane wasn't dealing any damage to him, and also we were only rocking about a 70% chance to hit, making it hard for us to restore our mana using Hunger because he was blasting us with Mana Rip every 10 seconds. So, to deal with the several issues that Uber Bale brought to the table, we had to make a few gear swaps and changes and focus primarily on our maul and our physical damage and making sure that we can actually hit him in order to take him out. But let's take a look at the changes that I made for Ubers just to take out Bale. So, the first thing we did for our Uber's gear setup was we swapped out our Doom for a Grief Phase Blade. This gave us some additional damage on demons and allowed us to ignore the target's defense. Next, we swapped out our Nightwings for a Metamorphosis helmet. This gave us access to Mark of the Bear, giving us more attack speed, more physical damage reduction, as well as a big boost to our shape-shifting skills and lots of extra crushing blow. We swapped our Laying of Hands out for Dracula's Grasp for the chance on life tap on striking. However, this did feel a little lackluster at the time, and I was still slugging full Redruves left and right, so this change may not even really be necessary. Lastly, to deal with our hit chance, we swapped to Angelic Wings and Halo, giving us the 2 set bonus, adding lots of extra attack rating. With Bale's defense out of the chance to hit formula, these changes gave us what we needed to be able to reliably hit him and finally take him down. Well, there you have it. It was a hard-fought battle, but we finally took the Ubers down. And at the end of the day, it's really all that matters. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, and maybe even hit that bell button so that you get notified when episode 3 of Hardcore Hell comes out next. Also, if you have any good ideas of your own, or you want to add more to this build, or workshop any builds with me and my team, feel free to leave a comment below, or come visit us over at Discord or Twitch, and the links will be down in the description. And last but not least, I want to say thank you so much for all the love and support that you guys have shown us on YouTube and over on Twitch. We got Ladder Season 4 coming up soon, and I hope that some of you will forsake that softcore ladder and come join us on the hardcore ladder, and maybe even rock one of our Hardcore Hell builds all the way to the top. So, until next time, keep slaying those demons.